You ever watch somebody who makes content just because, like, you go back, you watch them just because you're like, you can't believe the things that they're saying, and you just watch them and you're like, what are they talking about? It- I guess maybe don't maybe don't answer that because you're probably like, hey, Fanny, yeah, dude, that's why I come to your channel. Anyways, I was going down this rabbit hole yesterday, or a bunnelby hole, if you want to do a poke pun. I was going down this rabbit hole yesterday. I found somebody on Instagram, and I'm not going to name any names or anything like that. Because I mean, they're just doing their thing. They're just trying to do their thing. That's cool. I respect it. Whatever. And it was just a bunch of Pokemon investment videos, a bunch of Pokemon investment shorts that they've had accumulated over the past couple years. And one of them in specific was a video that they recorded like I don't know, a few months ago, and they were talking about this card, this Charizard card they bought in 2013 for $50. They bought a near mint or lightly played, depending on how you want to phrase it, base set Charizard in 2013 for $50. And I remember buying tons of Charizards in 2013, 2014, 2015 for $30, $40, $50. They were cheap, you know, they were cheap-ish cards. And then he was talking about how he pulled it out in the summer of 2019 or 2020 and decided to get it graded, and now it's worth $1,500. And then he became a Pokemon investor, and he was starting to talk about all these different moves that he made. About, you know how you have somebody who makes like one good decision, and I'm guilty of this all the time, makes one good decision, like a good financial decision, and now they're an expert all of a sudden. Like, I'm a sports bettor because I picked two teams, like I parlayed three teams together and they all won, so I know how to sports bet. Or I went, whatever the case, whatever. I'm going down another rabbit hole right now. But I started watching a bunch of these videos, and he's talking about investing in sealed, investing in booster boxes, buying these booster boxes because look what happens. And the thing that bothers me the most, and this is a Fanny rant, I can't even believe I'm doing this. The thing that bothers me the most is nobody knew. Like, you can talk to some really smart individuals. You can talk about, you can talk to Scott. You can talk to Charlie Herlocker. You can talk to Jake. You can talk to a lot of people and say, hey, how did you know that the cards that you bought in 2013 were going to be worth, you know, 10, 20x in the year 2020, 2021? And their honest answer is going to probably be, we didn't. We knew that we assumed they were going to go up. But we had no idea that this giant pandemic was going to come in, that you were going to have all these content creators, all these influencers come in and just drive Pokemon like absolute madness. Nobody could possibly have known this. So the reason your $50 Charizard is now worth $1,500 isn't necessarily because of that decision. Like, it is because of the decision that you made to buy it. However, it's not because it was natural progression. It was because something happened that brought a ton of interest back into the hobby. And whether you want to call it the market correcting itself or just progressing at an alarmingly fast rate, that's completely up to you. But really, the cause for this giant increase in a lot of Pokemon investments or in a lot of product is really because distribution was halted, shipping issues all over the place, a global phenomenon which locked a bunch of people in their basement to relive their childhood dreams and then spread that to their kids. Like, it all was this perfect storm that made cards 10x, 20x, booster boxes, sealed product 10x, 20x. And we've talked about this before, but this was an entire content series, you know, going over where every other day there's another video coming out about buy Lost Origin at $130 a booster box. Buy Lost Origin at $130 a booster box? Really? Like, do you think that's going to be a great sealed decision in the next year? Probably not. Probably not, to be honest with you. And we're going to talk about sealed booster boxes in today's video, specifically the Sword and Shield era, because the Pokemon market in general has been, it's been in some turmoil. And I'm not saying, first of all, I'm not knocking on anybody who calls themselves a Pokemon investor. Like, if you call yourself a Pokemon investor, I think that's great. I think there's room for you in this hobby. There's room for everybody in this hobby. I think that's great. But what I am trying to say is, if you have aspirations of being a big-time collector in Pokemon, or you want to be a business owner, or you want to be an investor, make your own decisions when it comes to spending your money. Don't listen to somebody who has done it before because they bought something in 2013, had a phenomenon happen, and then sold that card in 2022. Don't listen to that person because that thing that happened in 2019, that pandemic that happened, more than likely not going to happen again. More than likely, it's not going to happen again where you have this perfect storm of stuff that's going to blow up every single Pokemon card investment. Now, obviously it could. We don't know what the future is going to hold, but that is a huge, giant factor in what happened with a lot of the prices that we look at in today's market, in today's collectible market. So make your own decision. Definitely go watch content creators, like watch, study, learn. Like, I think it's great. I think we can pull knowledge from everybody, bits and pieces of information that you could watch content creators that maybe you're not even a big fan of, and they could say something that you're like, oh, I can resonate with that. I think that's a good point. Like, that's something that I can pull out of this content. But ultimately, make your own decisions when it comes to your collection dollars. We're in a situation right now in the economy where economically it's not great, right? Like, let's just face it, things aren't great right now. Prices, inflation hitting people hard. Obviously, the minimum building supply, like everything is going up, and really income is not to match that, and that's making things very difficult. Discretionary spend way down currently, which is really hurting a lot of the market, because this is a collectible, right? It's not something that you need to survive. It's not something that you can just put on the table to eat, although apparently some people in my stream think that you can eat Pokemon, which is really weird. Anyways, but I mean, if you think about things, like, Pokemon is going to take a back seat to life. Like, you're going to have to be able to provide for your family. You're going to have to do things. So because of that, a lot of the collectible market right now definitely trending in the downward direction. And booster boxes are the same thing. Like, there's so many people who are told, hey, buy cases of booster boxes, put them away in storage, and then sell them down the road. And a lot of people are unfortunately forced to open up that storage unit right now and start selling stuff off as things continue to dip, because they just need that money for other things, for more important, for life things. But ultimately, like, the important thing that you need to realize is buying Lost Origin right now at $130 or $140 per booster box may not be the wisest decision when it comes to spending your collection dollars, because of the way the economy is, because of the market right now. Really, the best point at buying that Lost Origin booster box was really when it originally released, and you could find cases for $600, basically buying $100 booster boxes for Lost Origin. Then you'd be in pretty good shape. But let's stop rambling. Let's talk about booster boxes from the Sword and Shield era, because those are the things that I want to focus on right now. This is when a lot of people kind of got involved in Pokemon. Really, the pandemic kind of happened right after Rebel Clash, moving into Champion's Path, moving into Vivid Voltage, moving into Darkness Ablaze. That's really where things started getting hit really hard. We couldn't find things in stores anymore. We're going to start off by looking at Sword and Shield base. A lot of booster boxes right now, very flat. And when I went on pokemoncenter.com just to get a feel for what booster boxes were still available in stock, there's still quite a few from the Sword and Shield era. Obviously, not up to Evolving Skies. Really, after Evolving Skies on Brilliant Stars, every single booster box is available at MSRP. So $143 for the Sword and Shield sets, $160 for the Scarlet and Violet sets. So available at MSRP, but then less on the secondary market in other areas, which is very interesting, because for so long it was such a struggle to try and find booster boxes at any discounted price, or in general, really. So if we look at the Sword and Shield base booster box here, now this is a product that's obviously out of print, has been out of print for quite some time, does have a little bit of age to it now, and is going to continue to age, obviously, as the days go by. Sword and Shield doing pretty well, but still kind of flat over the past 6 or 7 months. You can see in November of 2022, we had this giant spike when it came to sealed product at the end of last year to the beginning of this year, the beginning of 2023. A lot of things really started double-digit growth when it came to sealed product. If you missed the boat at that point, then I would move on and start looking at different areas of the hobby, because if you missed that boat when Sword and Shield base booster box was selling for $230, it's probably too late in the game right now. You can see this one selling at $285.82 currently, so that's about $10 lower than its one-year high, which is where it was in June of 2023, but still very flat over the past 4 or 5 months or so, well up from its $236.26 low, which it was at in November of 2022, but really flat over the past 6 months. Same thing with Rebel Clash, but on a grander scale. You can see in November of 2022, this one was sitting at a one-year low of $188.09, drove up quite a bit at the beginning of 2023. In January, it passed that $215 mark, but then stayed pretty much flat now for the last 8-9 months. Now, it did jump up to that $220.08 one-year high. That was in September, but still very flat. You can see $218.86 is where it's currently sitting. That means this entire year it has been flat. It has just stayed stagnant the entirety of the year. So if you would have bought in January of 2023 at $215, your growth pattern over the past year would have been negligible. It's nothing, nothing over the past. So that money that you spent on that Rebel Clash booster box could have been better off spent in a different area of the hobby or in a different area of whatever it is that you want to collect. That's why it's important to realize that, while you may want to be an investor or something like that, this is something that you really ought to enjoy from a collectible standpoint. Really working on your collection dollars, goals, things like that, I think is very, very important. Darkness Ablaze has been all over the place, and this is an out-of-print booster box as well that is selling for below MSRP. It's been out for over 3 years now, 3 years since the release of Darkness Ablaze. Can you believe that? November of 2022, this one was sitting at a one-year low of 129.02. Now, it's had a lot of ups and downs. We did have a reprint of it a couple years ago, but really nothing in Darkness Ablaze that jumps off the page at a lot of people. That Charizard VMAX, probably one of the cards, I mean, that's the most expensive card in the set, right? And it's only $30 to $40. Like, not a whole lot of super enticing cards. Reminds us a lot of what we just opened up with Obsidian Flames, right? You can see up and down all over the place. In April of 2023, it did hit that one-year high of 155.53, which is about 15% above its one-year low, but then dropped all the way back down to below MSRP at 135 in June before going back up in August, back down in September, back up at the end of September, and now it's sitting back down at $136.20. That just goes to show you how many sealed copies of these booster boxes are in existence, and you're going to have, I think, a lot of fluctuations in price over the next year, especially when it comes to booster boxes, as people continue to unload their collection to put their money in different things. Vivid Voltage, another booster box that's out of print right now, still selling below MSRP, selling for about $10 below MSRP at 133 is where it's currently sitting. In November of 2022, this was at a one-year low of 122.67. Did see some gradual growth up until April of 2023, where it did hit that one-year high. It hit basically MSRP at 142.24, but then dropped back down to below $130 in June of 2023. Now it's been gaining a little bit back, but now it took a step backwards over the last month, sitting at 133 currently. Battlestyle saw some big growth, started getting pumped a little bit by different content creators, and at the end of 2022, like what we saw from a lot of these other booster boxes, and we'll continue to see moving forward, saw some serious growth from November of 2022 all the way up until April of 2023. You can see it going from $85.46, jumping all the way up in April to $115.10. But if you look at what it's done over the past 7 months now, next to nothing. It's actually gone down about 6-7% over the past 7 months. You can see it dropping slowly from that 115.10 one-year high, currently selling at 107.62. If we look at Chilling Reign, another example, just like what we saw with Battlestyles, where it got pumped quite a bit in November of 2022. It was sitting at that one-year low of 107.27, so about a year and a half after Chilling Reign had released, it was still sitting at 107, and then really started gaining steam, really started growing all the way up until basically April of 2023, when it really flattened out. You can see it hit that $150 mark and then leveled out all the way up until September. Then it jumped up a little bit more, hit 152.71, so just above MSRP, but now it's been driven back down a couple dollars, sitting at 149.81, so basically very close to MSRP plus shipping for that Chilling Reign booster box. Evolving Skies is kind of the outlier here. Evolving Skies continues to grow. It did have a little bit of a drop over the past few months, so it went from 448.03, that one-year high which it hit in August. It's backed off a little bit where it's sitting at 433.30, but if you look at what it's done over the past year, really, there was nothing that you could do wrong with Evolving Skies. Continues to grow. I don't think it's as popular right now as what it was. I think 151 took a lot of heat off of Evolving Skies, and it's backed off a little bit, but you can see in November of 2022, that one-year low of 265.21, and then what it did after that. It was a little flat from April all the way up until July, and then saw some nice growth from about $380 up to that 440 point, but now it's sitting at 433.30, so still very, very high, very strong growth over the past year. Fusion Strike, another product that got pumped a lot, has been relatively flat for the past 5 or 6 months now. In November of 2022, is sitting at 102.03, and that's really what we're talking about as far as like when you're buying booster boxes. Buying them at that 130, 140 point is very, very tough. Because then you're looking at basically the height of MSRP. That's where it kind of, you're right at MSRP at 130, 140, 150, somewhere around there. And then it almost feels a little bit late to the game. So in November of 2022, this was still selling at 102.03. Saw some big growth at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, all the way up until April. You can see in June, this one actually hit that one-year high of 149.30. Now it's backed off a little bit, sitting at 145.78. As long as it's continuing to be available on Pokemon Center website, and Fusion Strike still available on Pokemon Center.com, it's going to stay right around this MSRP price point at 145.78. Brilliant Stars did get hit really hard with a reprint in April. So, I mean, that's really the reasoning behind this one dropping like crazy. November of 2022, this was already up to $165. Just continued to climb, hit that 1 year high of 184.18, but then really fell extremely hard in February of 2023 after that reprint got announced. And then when the reprint came in the middle of summer, hit that 1 year low of 137.80. So still very close to MSRP, but it hasn't been able to recover much because there was such a massive reprint. A lot of people were able to restock on Brilliant Stars. And if you look at the singles in the set, they've been falling like crazy. Brilliant Stars, another product that was just available all over the place, not just in booster box form, but also in loose pack form. It was crammed into tons of different collector tins, tons of different collection boxes, causing the value of the cards inside to drop tremendously. And now with booster boxes still being available on Pokemon Center's website, it's going to continue to stay right around that MSRP price point, currently sitting at $139.04. Astral Radiance has seen some nice growth over the past couple months. November of 2022 was when this one was at its 1 year low of 101.25, started gaining some ground. You can see in April of 2023 hit that $130 mark, then started backing off a little bit. So in July of 2023, it was down just below $120, but then saw some nice growth in August and September, jumped up to $142.59. So basically MSRP. Another product though that's still available on the Pokemon Center website has backed off. It's about a year and a half old now, currently sitting at $128.26. Lost Origin, we did just see a big reprint of Lost Origin that really impacted the prices on this, kind of like what we saw from Brilliant Stars, kind of like what we'll see from Silver Tempest. November of 2022, this one was sitting at a 1 year low of 106.29, really started to gain some steam, jumped all the way up to 169.17 in April, May of 2023 before backing off a little bit after that reprint came, and it's been continuously headed down in the downward direction, currently sitting at 130.88, but obviously a much better time to buy it would have been when it was at that $100 booster box, because then if Pokemon does reprint it like they did with Lost Origin, I mean, it looks much better. Not great when your $100 investment went up to 160 and now it's down to 130, but still, if you look at getting it at 130 or at 100 as opposed to getting at 130, you're in much better shape. Silver Tempest, kind of the same thing like what we just saw with Lost Origin. Because of that reprint, it got hurt really hard. November of 2022, it was sitting at a 1 year low of $100.55. Obviously, the singles in the set have dropped tremendously as well, especially with the God Tins that kind of came out. This not a whole lot of incentive to open up Silver Tempest for a lot of people, but November of 2022, sitting at $100.55, really started gaining some ground all the way up until July of 2023. That's when it hit that 1 year high of 146.38, then started to back off quite a bit. It's dropped down to 118.68, still trending in the downward direction. And again, as we continue to move forward with more and more Scarlet and Violet sets, it'll be interesting to see what happens with a lot of these Sword and Shield era sets, because a lot of people are forced to start selling off some of their collection. Maybe it's not moving as fast as they thought it would. Maybe it's not moving as fast as what people told them it would. And that's why ultimately, I guess the point of this video was just to make sure that you make the best decision for yourself when it comes to spending your collection dollars. Don't go broke over Pokemon. This is supposed to be a hobby that you enjoy, that you have fun with. And when you listen to a lot of investment advice from people who made it work, one thing that they're kind of leaving off the table or not telling you is that there was something that happened, some kind of world event that really impacted how things performed. And it's not necessarily natural for something like that to happen. So it's not something that you should expect moving forward. Obviously, make the best decisions, which is ultimately probably going to be what you think is best. So take information, but don't necessarily take advice. I hope you guys like the content. If you do, please hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm. But ultimately, thank you so much for just taking the time to watch and listen. We'll be back on Tuesday with another video. Until next time, peace.